Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, and my guest this week is one I'm pretty excited to talk to. That is Dexter Roswell. Really become a big fan of this guy in the last few months. Watching the Stride shows, attending the Stride shows. Definitely interested to hear about his character and everything in between. So, Dexter, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Wouldn't have done it any better myself.
So, my first question for all my wrestling guests is the same. Were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Ever since I was 7 years old. So, to tell my age, that's been about 23 years of watching wrestling, and just now, like, coming up almost on 5 years of actually being in the business. So, I've definitely seen a lot of wrestling over the years.
What was some of the wrestling what drew you into being a wrestling fan, I guess I should say?
I was just flipping through the channels one day, didn't really have anything to watch. I mean, 7 year old, anything's going to catch your attention like that. So I was going through there, and I don't remember the exact, like, what it was on Raw that caught my attention. Steve Blackman, for some reason, is coming to mind as, like, the first thing I saw.
Nice.
I don't know why. I don't know if that's even accurate, but that's what pops into my head. Like, the first thing. I guess Steve Blackman was very big in my early wrestling life. I don't know. But the athleticism, the
Nothing wrong with
storytelling,
Lethal Weapon, man. Nothing wrong with that.
exactly. I enjoyed his work. I wish he would have done more, but it is what it is. But like the athleticism, the storytelling, the characters, it just draws you in. Like I always like to joke and say it's like a male soap opera, but it kind of is. Like
Right.
I love the storytelling aspect of it probably most out of anything.
So you mentioned, Steve Blackman was coming to mind, but like, who were some of the other wrestlers that like were you really drawn to? I mean, you mentioned, there's him. Was there anybody else where you're like, that's my guy or that's my girl or I like what he or she does?
I mean, I didn't really. I don't want to say I had any like favorites per se because I enjoyed all of it, but I always tended to go towards like the smaller guys. Like Jeff Hardy is one of my personal favorites. Like his connection with the crowd, his athletic ability, the way he can like draw anybody into his matches. Like I absolutely love that, and he's still one of my favorites to this day. But people like Edge and Christian, and just like this, I don't want to call them smaller guys, but the ones kind of like in that area.
Not the
Like,
Giants.
not the Giants. I mean, I liked my Stone Colds and the Undertakers and the big names like that, but I always drew more towards like the high flyers or different things like that.
Awesome. So what what made you decide to pursue wrestling as a career, and how did you go about making a career in professional wrestling?
Well, I didn't even start till I was about 25 years old. So it wasn't one of those like, I mean, growing up, you always think, oh, I wonder if I could ever do that.
Mhm.
Uh, but for me, like, I'm a big family oriented person. All of my family is generally in the same area that I live. So I knew I didn't want to travel or do anything for that. So I kind of like put it out of my mind thinking that it would be an option. So I did the whole graduated high school, graduated college, and all that normal job stuff. And then I was shopping at the Marion Mall one day, and I just noticed this one part of the building, like there were black tarps over the windows, and I was like, what in the world is going on here? So as I got closer to it, I saw flyers, and it was professional wrestling. So I was like, I didn't even realize that there was wrestling around here. Like, I've grown up in this area my whole life, and I didn't even realize any of the AAPW stuff or anything like that. So that was all new to me. So when I saw Stride, I was like, I can wait an hour, hour and a half, even though the mall didn't really have many options to waste time at.
Right.
But I sat in there and just waited and uh, got in there and enjoyed all the characters that they had. And Heath was from the Harrisburg, North City area. I actually worked down the street from him. We worked in the same shopping mall in
Okay.
Harrisburg. I can't remember I think he worked at like Radio Shack or something like that, and I was working at Hibbett Sports at the time. So like I knew of him, but I didn't know him.
Right.
So went to the show and enjoyed it, obviously. And at the time, me and my buddy, we were doing a podcast ourselves, and which we don't do anymore.
Well, but
But
before we get too deep, tell me about the podcast you used to do, and like what made since I'm doing one right here, what made you want to be interested in podcasting, at least at that time?
yeah, it was just something like me and my buddy, we always watched wrestling. We worked together and talked about it all the time. So we was like, we might as well just talk about it in general. So we would talk about what pay-per-views were coming up or what happened on the Raw, SmackDown, TNA at the time, whenever that was still fairly big, which means it still is,
Oh
but
yeah,
AEW wasn't around or anything like that.
okay,
We would talk about different like classic moments and different stuff like that. So it wasn't we never really had guests or anything like that. It was just us talking, basically just to indulge ourselves.
kind of how this started. But
Yeah.
anywho,
Hey,
nothing
sometimes you just need to hear yourself talk.
exactly. So okay,
So
go.
we were still doing that at the time, and I talked to Heath at one of the shows and got his contact information, and he texted me, and we never actually ended up doing the podcast, having him on there because it went away shortly afterwards. But he also told me, hey, we've got a training school. If it's something you're interested in, come on down, see what the training's like, and maybe see about getting you in there. So I remember it was like the first week of July of 2016. I went to one of the practices. I introduced myself to the people, but I made sure to stay out of the way because I wasn't there to like get involved or do anything. I just wanted to watch and see like what they were doing. As a wrestling fan, you know kind of what they do, but not the behind the scenes training aspect of it.
Right.
So I remember leaving that day and I was like, I have to do this. If I don't at least try, it is something I'm going to regret. So I think it was August 2nd of 2016 was the first day that I went to training practice and actually participated, and that's a day I'll never forget.
So before you're doing your podcast, and you're doing, all this different stuff before you found the school. Was there anything that you thought that would maybe prepare you or kind of give you an idea of what you were getting into? Did you play sports? Did you do any sort of performance sort of thing? Any sort of athletics? Anything that you're like, well, I did this at this one point in time. Maybe that'll come in handy now, or I know what to expect, because of practices or rehearsals or something like that. Was any of that in your mind when you were getting ready to try, or did you do anything like that, or was it all from
Absolutely
scratch?
not. Absolutely not. I was not the athletic type growing up. I focused more on school and stuff like that. So I never did athletics. I never did any, like, the school I went to, we didn't do plays, didn't do anything like that. Didn't have really any opportunities to get in front of crowds or anything to know how I would react to that. So I went in basically bottom of the barrel, not knowing what to expect, not even knowing my own abilities to like be able to do it, because there's some stuff I do now that if you would have told me like first day that you started that, hey, you're going to do this, I would have been like, okay, but now I'm doing it, and like I absolutely love it more now than I ever have.
Awesome. Um, I've asked Bud Galloway, and I even talked to Heath a little bit about it, but you had no athletics training, and yet here you are into arguably the most physically demanding sort of performance art or athleticism or anything in the world.
Yes,
How do you
very much so.
respond? Like, what is that? Like, what's going through your head when Heath Hatton is training you? The way he's mentioned on the podcast that he likes to train his students. Like, what's going through your
Yep.
head then?
It's just going through my head. It's like, okay, I'm gonna try this. If I get hurt, I get hurt. But
Right.
the way Heath trains, he's not going to do anything to jeopardize anybody's health. He's going to show you how to do the moves and show you how to do them properly. Case in point, this is an embarrassing story on myself, but very first practice, like whenever you take a bump, you have to tuck your chin. If not, you're going to smack your head on the mat, and it's going to hurt really bad. So when we were at the mall, we were working with this mixed martial arts, they had some of the building, and he let us use the building for our shows and everything and for practices. So there was headgear and stuff like that. So he had us put the headgear on, and again, as I mentioned earlier, I was not athletically inclined. I proceeded to put the headgear on backwards and do it. So that's a good laugh that I still get brought up to this day about. But but it's like I said, it's like seeing where I was at that point where I am now. It's to me, it's astonishing.
um, what was the conditioning like for you when you were first? You said somebody without an athletic background. What was it like to start working out and getting exercise and things like that?
That's one of the things like I will say myself, and anybody who you ask that I need to work on more is doing more exercise and conditioning and stuff like that. But as far as like in the ring stuff, like it's one of those the same way with taking bumps or doing all of these moves. I mean, they do hurt. The ring isn't like a trampoline like some people think,
Right.
but it's one of those that your body gets conditioned to it. So like I can take a superplex off the top rope and it hurt, but not be in crippling pain from it.
Right.
It's one of those like for me, it was something that came over time where running the ropes, like at first I wouldn't be able to do it very long, but now I could do it for however much longer. So
Right.
it's definitely something for me that it was conditioning and just like making sure I got to where I needed to, and the way I did that was constantly going to practices. Even after I graduated from the school, I would still go up there. There would be times when I would be the only one there, and there's not so much that you can do by yourself in a wrestling ring besides take bumps, run the ropes, uh, throw yourself through and over the ropes, different stuff like that. But I would want to go there every time just so I could be in the ring and work on my conditioning and work on things I do in the ring. So that's you just have to be persistent with it.
How long were you training before you had your first match?
Uh, I think it was 2 months I had been
Really?
training. Yeah. It was one of those, I think it was just like, it kind of fell into my lap because I remember I think it was October 4th or October 6th of obviously that same year of 2016. I was at work and Heath texted me and was like, hey, do you want to work me at the Catskin Days as a heel? I'm like, yeah, sure. Because I live in Harrisburg, so Carrier Mills is not where they have Catskin Days, is just like 5, maybe 10 minutes away. So I think it was more of a convenience factor as far as having someone there. But I mean, I faced Heath. It was a very simple match. He didn't bump one time, but we still made it look like it was a very competitive match. But just that being in front of that crowd, it's electrifying. Because I remember after I got done texting him, I was talking with people at work. Uh, I was nervous, thought I was going to puke, and I was like, I've only been doing this 2 months, and now I'm supposed to be going in front of a crowd and being a bad guy.
Wrestling your
Uh,
trainer, no less.
exactly. So no pressure on that one either.
Right.
But I don't know. It was like whenever I got to the place where we had it, because it was an outside show, it was like all of that went away. Like I trusted in how Tyler taught me to do things and how to get through a match. Because even at practice, we do practice matches. So you do the same process of what you would do in front of a crowd, but it's just totally different doing it in front of people. But like I loved every second of it. Like I didn't feel totally nervous. I had decent feedback after it, and main thing for anybody starting out is just listening. Like Heath walked me through that match, and it turned out pretty good.
Oh, awesome. So you said the match it turned out well for you. What was what was it like after the match? Like what did do you have any like memories of like any of the guys or Heath coming up to you? After that, there's, you know, obviously it was you got a good feeling. When I'm reading like books like Chris Jericho's book where he talks about like how bad he felt after his first matches. So you had a
Yeah.
different experience. Was Heath, congratulating you? Was he, kind of giving you constructive criticism? What was it like, finally, getting that monkey off your back and having your first match and not being nervous anymore?
Exactly. That was the big thing, just not being nervous anymore. Like after the match, he told me I did a good job. Uh, he told me a few things I needed to work on, and I mean that's going to be anything. You're not going to have a perfect match. If you have a perfect match, you shouldn't be wrestling probably in a small town. But the main thing he said, it was like you listened, and that was what got you through the match. Because if you can listen to somebody like Heath, who's been doing this for years, he can walk anybody through a match. He's that good. So that, I mean, like I said, that's the biggest thing, is just listening to the person you're in the ring with, because it's a lot of trust, but also listening to the crowd, because there's going to be times like after hitting a move, you don't go immediately right to the next move. You play to the crowd. If they're cheering you, play up to them. If they're booing you, like yell back at them. So there's so many different nuances to a wrestling match besides the moves that I think a lot of people that don't watch it on a normal basis don't realize.
Absolutely.
But everybody in the locker room was great, very accommodating. Uh, that's how it's been basically the whole time. I haven't really had any bad instances in the locker room per se. Uh, Overall, good experiences, and I love everybody that I work with.
So, when I first saw you, one of the things that really drew me to you was your character and your music and all of I was just really especially for Stride, like, well, that's a good presentation, like the way they've been, this aura around your character. If you feel comfortable, tell me what led to the character or characters that you portray now in Stride.
Yeah, you definitely have to say characters now because I portray a few of them. So I remember when I first started, like that match with Heath, like I didn't really have a character. Jeff Hardy being one of my like role models growing up and one of my favorites. Like I had these black trip pants and just a plain green shirt and a green bandana. So nothing about me said, "Oh my gosh, this guy's gonna be great." So, but I used that for a few times. I went by the moniker Luke Chambers, which he comes back later on in the story. Um, then later on, as we continued doing practices and everything like that, Tyler came up with the idea of doing a politician gimmick. This was right around the time when Donald Trump was being elected and everything, doing his Make America Great Again. So he wanted me to portray a politician. So, I mean, that's all he told me. Like, he wanted me to do that. He told me to take the ball and run with it, basically. So I came up with, like, what I wear, which I wear suits in the ring, which you don't see very often. And I still get, to this day, people saying, "How do you wear a suit in the ring?"
I was just getting ready to ask that. How do you wrestle in a suit compared to, you know, everyone else is wearing tights or trunks or something, and you're straight up wearing a three-piece suit and tie, and
Yep.
you know,
I can't really explain because I've never worn actual wrestling gear. That's
okay,
one of the things. Like I couldn't tell you how many matches I've had, but I have not one time wore like a singlet, tights, trunks, or anything like that. It's either been those trip pants or a suit. So I definitely wear the out of the ordinary attire, which to me it doesn't bother me because I've been so used to it. But it's also I think a drawing point where be like, "Hey, did you see that guy wrestling in the suit? They may not remember my name, but they're going to remember me because of that."
right,
And that's one of the main things. You want to get remembered one way or the other. Hopefully for good things, but when you have people remembering you, that's always a good thing. So
awesome.
I came up with what I was going to wear. I came up with my name, Dexter Roswell. Uh, Weirdly enough, just looking through, like, I think I Googled English sounding like names and came across Dexter Roswell and put them together, and it sounded decent. It sounded like a politician that I would see on TV. So
Right.
so I went with that, and coincidentally, it worked out. DR, Democrat Republic, politics.
I didn't even
It
think about that. That's awesome.
it was unintentionally perfect. Uh, I came up with the move sets that I was going to do. I came up with what my finishing move was going to be with the
Well,
help of a few people.
you're talking about coming up with your move set. I've never gotten the chance to really ask anybody this. Take me through coming up with your move set. Like what are you thinking when you do that? That's something just never really come up. I've never thought to ask, but you know, how did you
A
come
lot,
up with your moves? What did you think about? Like what goes into something like that?
a lot of the stuff is just watching wrestling and seeing moves and being like, I think I could do that. Or, because obviously I'm not the tallest or the strongest or the biggest guy, so I'm not going to do like choke slams and tombstones or anything like that. So you have to cater it to your wrestling style and your body type. You just have to. So, like I said, for my finishing move, I use a headlock drive
Okay,
typically. I have a few other ones, but the one I use mainly is a headlock drive, which I call the deciding vote. Um,
nice.
but it's something I can use on anybody, whether it be a small guy or a big guy. So you have to find that move set to where it's gonna work for you. Like I like doing Russian leg sweeps, and I do the Claymore, like Drew McIntyre does. Different things like that that I know that I can do with my body type with any type of person. So that's the biggest thing is just like making sure that you can do the moves and do them safely.
Awesome. You didn't think you put safety number one. Was there anything like where you're like, hey, I want to do this because it would kind of fit with the character? Is there any sort of thought like that that would go into it, or is it just kind of like, is it a matter of safety and then everything else just kind of falls into place as far as moves your quote unquote character would do?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things as far as like you want to think about your character as well when you're doing that. You don't want to do something that's like I said, if I do a tombstone pile driver as a politician, I don't really think that's going to make sense.
Right.
But but one of the things like it's not even a move set, but that a lot of people have been like that is absolutely genius that you do. So like when I'm doing the normal politician, uh, I'll walk around, shaking people's hands, doing all that like a normal politician. But
Right.
before I get in the ring, I Germ-X my hands because I want
That's
to
awesome.
clean myself of the germs of all the people that I supposedly don't, I care about, but I really don't. So that's just one of the things that I was thinking as a politician. That would be a good way to generate heat by being like, okay, I shook your hands, but like, please let me clean my hands before I before I do that. And then I usually have the referee up on the ropes for me and stuff like that. So a lot of it is character driven.
Awesome. Um, so that's the politician portion of your
Yes.
character. There's another portion of your character which really drew me in, and I didn't
Oh,
even
there's
really know how to describe it, but it was captivating. So I'm going to let you explain it, and not only for me, but for somebody, one of my subscribers who maybe hasn't seen Stride yet. You know, maybe they'll want to check out Dexter Roswell's alter ego.
yeah. So I'm assuming you're talking about the one that's a little bloody. Is that correct?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. That's the one I thought, but because I got a few others which I will get to.
Okay,
But
awesome.
the idea of I just call him Bloody Dexter, just to separate him from regular Dexter. It actually didn't start at Stride. It started at Cape Championship Wrestling.
Okay,
So I started there, oh gosh, probably in June of 2017, I believe. I
okay,
had started out as the normal politician. I was there for about 2 or 3 months. Was in a group and everything, but due to scheduling conflicts with other promotions, I couldn't continue going back to CCW for a time because I had been going to the other promotion longer, and my loyalties were over there. So I didn't want to screw somebody else over because I was going somewhere else.
right.
So I got taken out, and I got taken out by the Crowleys, Otis and Jackson Crowley.
Had
Um,
Otis on the show. Great guy.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I absolutely love him. That was my first time. Whenever he took me out, that was the first time, and I've worked with him since, and he's a good guy. Same way with Jackson. I love working with
Got to
those
get
guys.
Jackson on, but go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they took me out and sent me to the depths of hell or something like that, or took me to the basement or something like. I can't remember exactly how they put it, But I didn't show back up in CCW for it was like a year. So when we came back, they decided to put me with Brandon Espinoza. At the time, he was doing face paint and everything like that. So they wanted me to do the face paint as well. So I did the same face paint as him for the first show, and I think the second show as well. Uh, but like 2 or 3 shows in, I was like, okay, I need to do something that like kind of differentiates me from him. So that's when I got the bloody suit and changed up my face paint to include the blood drops and or like a bloody hand or something like that. And it just went on from there. Uh, I did that until I ended CCW in, oh gosh, I think it was the beginning of 2020 was my last time I was there. Just haven't had the opportunity to go back. Uh, but it slowly drifted into Stride because it's something that I enjoy doing that because it's a totally different character from Dexter. And I
Right.
try to differentiate move sets and being more aggressive when I'm Bloody Dexter and just stuff to like set them apart. So we couldn't just do like okay, he's Dexter this one month and then next time he shows up as Bloody Dexter. So I mean that wouldn't make much sense.
Right.
So at the time I was teamed up with Jay Wellington Beauregard, Dalton Anthony, who was my best assistant ever, um, or the Bay as we called him. Uh, and then I would have my parents at the shows, which everybody knows them as Dexter's parents. So it was slowly like Mr. Anthony Dalton, he turned his back on me and he went off on his own. Jay Wellington Beauregard turned his back and went to managing somebody else. It was we made it to where I was like losing everything, and then I kept losing matches and losing this and getting beat up or stuff like that. So it was a culmination of like 9 months of a build to bring Bloody Dexter in, and we did it to the almost to where I was having split personalities.
Okay.
Like my Dexter character, my Dexter Roswell character was going crazy, like acting crazy in the ring, and, talking to myself, and so many different things. And then I think it was January of 2020, I brought back Luke Chambers as one of my split personalities. Doesn't know who Dexter Roswell is. So they're almost their like own 3 separate entities. So then it's something where I can switch back and forth between Dexter Roswell, who's now crazy, to Luke Chambers, and then bring out Bloody Dexter whenever basically he needs to come out. So the first time Bloody Dexter showed up at Stride in a match was at Stridiversary last year, where I won the No Limits title, and then he came back at this Stridiversary to end the Best of 7 series with Scott Phoenix. So just being able to tell that story, which I credit Heath for all that. He was the one that was like, I want you to do this. And like we would work together and figure out, okay, does this make sense? Because sometimes I have over the top ideas. Sometimes. So for instance, there was one where I think it was me and Mike Masters versus Bo Sawyer and Magnifico. So I had bought this Beetlejuice costume after one Halloween when it was on sale pretty cheap. So I was like, one day I want to use that and be a special guest referee. So I decided, going crazy, that I would be the guest referee in my own match. So whenever Mike was in the ring, I made the ref go out, sit in the crowd, and I was the actual ref. Counted right down the middle, even though I was the bad guy and everything. And then whenever I got in the ring, whenever I was pinning somebody, I would count myself. So just small little things like that add to the story. That's the part that I absolutely love. So, and then when we did do the final reveal of Bloody Dexter at Stridiversary 2020, I remember walking through that curtain and nobody really knew like it was going to be Bloody Dexter. I had my music play, a different version of it to include something more darker and everything. and you could just hear the crowd going "ooh" whenever I came out, and that sits with me still to this day as one of like the best moments.
Awesome. Um, so mention your time in Stride with that. I know you've worked other places. How do the promotions say like we want Bloody Dexter or we want Politician Dexter? Like, how do you go about when you kind of leave your home base? How do you go about knowing what gimmick you want to use? Is that your call? Is that their call? How's that work?
It's usually a combination of both. Like I'll talk to whoever's running the show beforehand and let them know, hey, I do this, but I also do this and I do this. So I kind of leave it up to them what they are looking for. Um, like at one promotion, it's IWA Unlimited out of Noble. IWA, yeah, Unlimited. Getting companies mixed up. Um, that I typically do normal politician Dexter there, but there have been times when I've brought Bloody Dexter in like when needed. So
Right.
it's one of those like I keep my options open uh, to whatever promotion I go to.
Awesome. You has there been I'm trying to figure out the right way of saying this. Has there been more of a demand for Bloody Dexter since you've been getting that, or is it still kind of evened out, like among the characters you have?
I would say it's evened out for the most part. I try not to bring out Bloody Dexter too much because it's almost like the Demon King for Finn Balor. Like I want to bring him out because I just have so much fun with it, but at the same time, I don't want to diminish it by bringing it out everywhere.
Right.
I want to protect the character per se, I guess, and use it whenever there's going to be a build to it because I would like there to be like I said, like a build up to bringing it out.
Right. I do have to say I really liked how that you pulled it off a couple months ago, where the lights went out and then you came in and you were Bloody Dexter because I did not expect that. So I'm like, what's this?
Uh,
This is cool.
was that the bull rope match?
Yes.
Yes, that was a fun one. Heath came up with that idea, and I was like, I hope I can pull it off, but let's try it.
Well, I was getting ready to say, if you feel comfortable peeling back the curtain, how did you pull that off?
Uh, basically, whenever the lights went out, I scurried behind the curtain, changed my clothes, got back out there to be for the short and sweet.
Okay,
Um,
I didn't know if there was like the clothes run underneath the ring because like it felt very instantaneous, and I'm like, how did he get a suit on that quickly? That's weird,
yeah,
you know.
that was one of the reasons why I was Chambers that night because if I wore my regular suit, I would not be able to put another suit on over that one very easily. So I was able to put stuff over my more athletic type clothing that I do for Luke Chambers. And granted, I didn't paint my face for that one. I have a mask, so if I would have had to paint my face, it would have been a lot longer of a wait. But the mask works just as well for something like that. But being able to like, sometimes it's a pain putting that face paint on because I have to do it in layers. I have to do the white, then the black, then the red to get the full effect. But after the fact, like it's all done, I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is pretty legit, and it gets me in that mood.
I was getting ready to say like, is there a lot of actors, there's that method acting, do you kind of have like when do you kind of feel yourself becoming that character when you start putting the face paint on, or is it something that just easily go in and out of? Like, what's it like turning into that character?
I think it's something that for me it's easy to go in and out of, because for like the last show, the I Quit match, when I did Bloody Dexter for the whole match, we did stuff that I've wanted to do for a while, but I didn't want to do it in something that didn't make sense. So being Bloody Dexter, being able to take all these chair shots and kendo sticks and cookie sheets and stuff like that, I think that character calls for it more than a politician. You know,
Right.
unless like you build up correctly to it, I think it fits more with that bloody character where I can be more vicious and choke him with a tie and uh, all the other stuff, smash his head in with an axe handle. stuff like that.
Um, the one thing that's impressed me about Stride is, for better or worse, they really they push the boundaries, and I mean this in a good way. I really like it how they really, they take chances and they push boundaries with their shows. Because I'm used to, and I love APW, but they never, when that promotion was around, they never really pushed the boundaries like Stride does. Was there ever any sort of reservation among doing a character like that in a very conservative, family friendly area for a family friendly show?
There is. We are a family friendly show, and we want everybody that comes there to bring their kids and bring their whole family and stuff. So there is some reservations in using Bloody Dexter a whole lot. Just because I mean it can scare kids or stuff like that. But whenever I was out there the other night as Bloody Dexter, a lot of the kids and stuff were cheering for me
Mm-hmm.
and really enjoyed the character. So, but I think a lot of it comes down to when we were still doing school shows. So we kind of have to go along the guidelines of basically kind of what they want sometimes. So, uh, some you may not want to promote somebody with a blood-covered suit and carrying around an axe handle and going to try to smash people's heads in. It doesn't really portray well to a school setting. So it's just one of those you have to adjust to the environment that you're in, and that's in anything you do. Uh, there's some stuff that night at Stradiversary this year, like with thumbtacks and light
Right,
tubes and cookie sheets and kendo sticks and stuff like that. Like a school might not want that, but we can do that at our building.
right.
So you just have to know the environment that you're in.
Um, so you mentioned IWA Unlimited. What are some other promotions uh, that you've wrestled for, and what are some of your memories from those groups?
The main four that I've worked for: Stride, Cape Championship Wrestling, IWA Unlimited, and IWA Productions, which is out of Mount Vernon now. Those are the ones that I've spent the most time with in my career. I've done a few other like one-offs, but it's never really went anywhere.
Right,
Uh, I remember one time for IWA Productions, whenever I was still doing, well, still do, uh, the normal, regular Dexter Roswell, I had a group of like bodyguards and stuff that I called the DR party. So it was me and two of my DR party members against John Bach and Honky Tonk Man.
oh, awesome! I didn't know you got to wrestle Honky Tonk Man. What's that like?
That was actually really cool because that was the first time I had ever been in the ring with someone that has been on the grand stage and everything like that. Uh, it was the funny part is like me and my two other people, we walked up. They had black pants, white shirts. I had the full piece suit and everything on. Honky Tonk thought I was their manager, so we had to explain to him, no, I'm the leader of the groups, and then we went from there. So Honky, we didn't get to do a lot to him. I did get to put an arm wringer on him, so that was the only thing he took the whole match. So I will take that. But that experience was awesome, just being in the ring with somebody of that caliber. And then I think it was like a week later for Stride, we did a show at Pinckneyville at the 204 school. It was me and Jerry Travelstead, who's their superintendent, and we were in a feud. We had a paddle on a pole match, and the special guest referee was Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. So to be in the ring with like two legends and like people that are Hall of Fame caliber within like almost like a week of each other,
Right.
it's just like, okay, I don't want to be super excited, but I mean, I am pretty excited. But being there with Steamboat and getting in his face, and he gave me like kind of like a tomahawk chop or something like that, and that's just things that you'll never forget and you'll always remember. And whenever I grow old, I can tell the people and be like, I remember I shared a ring with Ricky Dragon Steamboat one time, and that's just stuff you're not going to forget.
Um, and what was Steamboat and Honky? Were they? What was it like just interacting with them in the back? Like, were they cool dudes? I mean, like, what's? Did you have to contain any like sort of oh my god it's them, or was everything even keel? What was that like just being in the same locker room with legends like that?
I've been in several locker rooms with legends. Like CCW used to bring in a lot of people, so like Billy Gunn and EC3 and Crazy Steve and SCU. So they brought in a lot of well-known talents as well. But I didn't really get to interact much with them. But for Honky and Steamboat, being able to like interact and talk with them, there was a part of me that was like, okay, I've watched matches of these people and like have their DVDs and like watched so much stuff about them. But at the same time, I'm there to do my job and perform for the crowd, not to live out a dream of meeting these people.
Right.
So I was able to contain it, I think, very well and realize they're here to help us bring in money for this cause or whatever it is. So they probably don't want people coming up to them and, hey, can I have your autograph if your wrestler's in the back?
Right.
So honestly, it kind of almost just felt like a normal show. Like I don't want to say mark out because I mean that's a common term we use nowadays, but it was a show for me, but it was something that I'm still never going to forget.
Awesome. What now that knock on wood, the world seems to be getting a little bit more back to normal. Um, what are your goals going forward as just with your career?
I just want to get back to where I was around like 2019 before everything happened. Like at that point, like I was wrestling every Tuesday. Almost wrestled every Saturday or had shows throughout the week. I want to get back to that normal schedule. Like I still have every Tuesday and I have once or twice every month for a Saturday. But I just want to continually get in the ring and keep getting better. Because no matter how long you've been in the business, you can always learn something and keep getting better in the ring. So that's my main goal is just to continue to get better.
Do you have anybody that you haven't wrestled yet in Stride that you're really looking forward to an opportunity to get to work with them?
Gosh, I've worked with most people in Stride over the years, in some form or fashion. I was primarily in tag teams for the first few years, so I've worked with the likes of Axe, Allward, and Heath Hatton, and been in the ring a few times with Roger Mathis and Cash Borden. Uh, but there's not really anybody too that I'm like I want to get in the ring with because I want to get back in the ring with all of them.
Right.
Uh, Especially like I want to work with some of the people that are trainees because I remember being a trainee myself and a bunch of the veterans and people that have been doing it a lot longer than I have taking time to invest in me and be like, hey, I watched your match. You did this good, but you did this bad. This is what you could do to fix it. So I kind of want to try to help in that way as much as possible too. Uh, and I used to help at training as well after I graduated for the longest time. Uh, but there's several. I would love to get in the ring in a one-on-one match again with Dalton Anthony, just because we're really close friends outside of wrestling, and we have the backstory of being former tag team partners. Um, Bud Gallows, again, another close friend that we've had some good practice matches, but never really had a chance to do anything in front of a crowd. So I think we can do some fun stuff. Uh, One of the people that he actually just graduated from the Stride Pro Wrestling Training School, Savion Ayers.
Oh yeah.
Uh, he's just so athletically gifted, and he you can tell just by looking at him that he loves this business and he takes notes and he asks on everybody's opinions. And any chance I get, I'm always like, hey, why don't you try this in your match? Or what do you think about this move set? Or stuff like that. So I would love to get in the ring with him because I think we could really do a lot of good stuff. So really, I'd like to have wrestle everybody again.
um, do you Do you ever think we'll see a full on return of the politician, or has he lost his mind too much to come back, at least in stride?
You can't never say never in professional wrestling. Uh, there could be a chance where the politician comes back. Uh, I don't know how we would get to that, but who knows? Maybe I'll just magically cure myself, or for one day think I am. So there's always a chance he could come back. Who knows? Maybe reform the DR party. You just never know what to expect in the world of professional wrestling. Really, the only thing you can do is continue watching or coming to the shows.
And I definitely look forward to coming back and seeing more of more of your character and more of your work. Do you have any social media you would like to plug in case someone hasn't seen any of your matches yet, or just to kind of get to know who you are more?
Well, I don't do a lot on social media. I do have my own page on Facebook, Dexter Roswell. But you can always look on the Stride Pro Wrestling YouTube page to find all of our shows, and you can see my matches that have been posted on there, as well as the rest of the shows. And for anybody that hasn't seen Stride Pro Wrestling, maybe find a new favorite wrestler, or I mean, if you choose to choose me as your favorite wrestler, that's fine too. But there's so many different characters and personalities within Stride Pro Wrestling. Somebody's gonna find something to enjoy.
Absolutely, and I definitely really got drawn into your character. I love it. I wish you the best of luck. I'm looking forward to seeing more of what you have to offer. I want to. I'm mad that I missed out on quite a bit of the politician. Like I really want to see more of that. But
There
you
was
know,
some good stuff with that. I will say there was some pretty good stuff that we did. But like I said, who knows? He might come back, but I so appreciate all the kind words you had, and as far as my character, because it's like I said earlier, character and storytelling is one of the things that I love the most with wrestling. So to get compliments on that, that means a lot to me.
I'm 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 just I'm just happy you're doing well with it, and I appreciate all you do.
Well, thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening to this. If you enjoyed, please give a like, share, subscribe for more content, not just from the world of wrestling, but from the world of comic books, gaming, anime, and all things geek culture. Follow me on my social media pages, facebook.com/athleticgeek89, Twitter at athletic_geek89, Instagram at athleticgeek89, and if you would like to help the channel out financially, I am on Patreon, patreon.com/athleticgeek89. Definitely go check out Stride and go check out Dexter. Thanks to him again. We'll see you next time.